Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host and author, Edward Carbajal. Ed, what's going on, my friend?
What's up, everybody? That's the book there. Folks in Jersey, I was going to try to make it to Darkside, New Jersey this past weekend where the man on the cover here was hosting the event, emceeing the event, but I had some issues come up, personal issues come up that I couldn't make it to the event. So apologies for that, but we're going to get copies of the books out and stuff there. But yeah, man, it's been a while. Looking forward to it. We got another pay-per-view is upon us. We actually got a bunch of stuff going on this weekend. RIZIN 52, UFC 326, and as you guys know, I do work for Spectation Sports, and Fusion Fight League is airing there. I've got a couple of good interviews, myself and James Lynch, for the event, and the card is there's a lot of good storylines there, so keep an eye out for that. So smorgasbord of fighting this weekend available to everybody that loves fights.
Nice. You mentioned RIZIN 52. Really the reason that grabbed our attention was the announcement a couple weeks back now of Patchy Mix headlining the event against 19-year-old Kiyomo Akimoto, who at 19 is already 11-1. So, he's going back to the roots in a sense. I know Bellator's more it, but he made a nice little name for himself over there as well. So it's good to see him get back in action, keeping busy. He's young enough. The door's not closed on him. We know TKO is all about money. So if he can just get back on track, they'll be the first ones to be knocking back on his door. But if I'm being honest, dude, as a fight fan, not somebody who's worried about his bank account so much, I'm kind of happy to see him fighting here again.
Yeah, me too. I think a lot of us were when the news broke, and he seemed pretty content with it too. When he did, I know they put the RIZIN had posted like his media scrum and stuff, and it just seems like it just seems more fun, more like that Bellator energy because they did the co-promotion and he's familiar with them. I also feel like he might have had like some mental pressure to perform that kind of messed with the way he fought. So maybe this will be a nice reset for him, being someplace that he's already more familiar with, and he doesn't feel the need to focus on all the other extra that the fanfare and all that UFC, kind of the jitters, like people call UFC jitters. I feel like that was his, because I like the kid, and I think like you said, I think he can if he wanted to, but he's probably doing all right financially fighting at RIZIN too.
Yeah, no, I'm sure, and it doesn't hurt for them to have some American names and some Westerners that they can mix into their cards, especially with the internet broadcasts, the internet pay-per-views, the RIZIN TV and stuff. It helps. Obviously, if you're killing it with international talent, you can get away with that, but some familiar names and faces obviously help to sell. When we talk about names and faces familiar, it's the reason why the co-main event is Taisei Sakuraba against Luis Gustavo, who is a protege of Vanderlei Silva. So you're getting a throwback to the axe murderer, Gracie killer days of the early days of Pride. Kind of calling an audible right now because we're talking about RIZIN, and it just popped into my head. I finally brought myself to watch the Smashing Machine, the Rock version of the Smashing Machine. You watched it. You watched it, correct?
I watched it and I wrote a review of it on my newsletter. Yes,
because I kind of avoided stuff on it because I didn't know how to react. I'm kind of 50-50 on the Rock. Some of the stuff I was seeing looked a little cartoonish, and
I'm glad you brought it up though, because did you? So, am I wrong in saying that it's pretty much just a documentary with a couple of extra sprinkled in?
I would say it's a docu. Yeah, it's basically how it looks. It's like a movie about a documentary. I mean, it's kind of, but my whole thing is that and you too, like, we lived that era. And it means so much that, like, I just wanted to make sure it was portrayed correctly and that there wasn't like this really weird spin on it, and I gotta say, at least I'm happy with that. I thought they did a fair portrayal of the era. I liked the way that they did some of the filming in Brazil when they had it. I think, obviously some of I would have gotten somebody else to play Paul Varlins. I thought, and I know this is all stuff that's been talked about over the last year now since this movie came out. So I'm not trying to rehash too much, but overall, I thought it was a fair movie. I thought it was worth watching. And anybody who watches it, I think the key is to watch the actual documentary and trail up with that, just to kind of get an idea, or just throw in the Pride Grand Prix. I mean, just to something just to kind of get a feel for the reality of what it is. It's literally right there on film. I mean, it's one of those rare occasions.
And I'll say the only things I really liked about it. One thing I don't think that got mentioned enough was Ryan Bader acting, playing
Mark
Coleman. I didn't get enough recognition when the thing was being hyped up or whatever. I thought his performance was great. Emily Blunt's performance was probably. I mean, she's she's the real pro actress in the whole movie. Everyone else is like actual fighters playing other fighters or whatever outside of Boss Root and playing himself. And then the one thing I did like that they did differently was at and I'm not ruining it by now, like you said, it's already kind of old. The showing Mark Kerr at the very end, just being your everyday guy doing groceries, just showing like how he can walk around and he lived this life that if you're going to get into it, like you said, watch the documentary, because the documentary does a better job of covering the addiction and stuff that he went through and everything else. And because I feel like the movie did a poor job of that. They kind of just
they made it the documentary, you see it in real time kind of unfolding, and you I think you can understand the relationship between him and his girlfriend and then future wife in the documentary better than in the movie, because in the movie it's an actor, and I don't know if it's in the documentary, it's real life, it's a real person, it's like it's real, the decisions and the things that are being said. I mean, just the confrontations that they're having before he's walking out, literally before he's walking out for these fights against, and she didn't know who Igor Vachon. I mean, to be fair, like there's some ignorance there, but like I can only imagine that, you can see the downfall in real life. So to know that, it's based off a true story, but it's one of those rare occasions where that true story is actually documented, where you can watch that too. We're not this is not just all hearsay and so that also had to keep him kind of true. You bring up Ryan Bader, and that's a great point. Honestly, I didn't even really think about it, because going in, when I heard he was cast as Mark Coleman, I kind of side-eyed it a little bit. Like, that seems really weird. But now that you say that, I watched the whole movie, and at no point did I ever think that's not Mark Coleman. You know what I mean? Like the actor was Mark Coleman to me. So you make a good point. I never said, oh, it's Ryan Bader. It's Ryan Bader.
Like, I hope he gets actual more work, because of just displaying the emotion, especially the scene where they're addressing the addiction in the hospital and stuff. Like, I was really taken with the way he kind of like, expressed his own concern for, like you said, you didn't think it was Ryan Bader. You're thinking it's Mark Coleman, and I just hope maybe that opens a door for Bader to get to do more, because he's obviously got skill. He's a big guy. Hollywood wants some big dudes. I hope that opens some doors for him, because that was one thing that like I said, shit wasn't talked about enough. Everybody was talking about The Rock's performance, which whatever, but and I forgot, there was one last thing I wanted to say about the movie, and I can't think of what it was. You had said something earlier, but anyway.
Anyways, but you mentioned the end of the movie, and honestly, it was weird. Like you said, it shows him as it kind of brings back the whole full circle. Like, this is just a human being who you wouldn't even recognize from anybody selling cars in Phoenix or at a grocery store, but it also makes me think. It makes me sad that the UFC, there's not a huge list of people.
That's what it was.
That the UFC could take care of.
Yeah,
like it really isn't.
So
I mean, if you gave me 100 names, I could probably name 100 like I'm not talking about guys that fought 5, 6 times and had good fun fights. I'm talking about like the guys that, I mean, the guys that built the sport. I'm not, and if you threw away, the guys that didn't, and he, Mark Kerr is as responsible for his own downfall as anybody.
Yeah.
Like so I don't necessarily, he made good money. He made terrible mistakes, but go ahead. But I think
that's the thing that I forgot that I'm remembering now that you said it. As soon as you said UFC, you reminded me. Because when the movie came out, Mark Kerr went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and if you really want to see like some back things that were missing from the actual documentary that the film can't even come close to, listen to the questions that Joe Rogan asked him about the stuff that from that period of Pride and Mark Kerr in his life and the way fights were done then versus now. It's worth listening to if you want to know. It's definitely a trip down memory lane that this movie tried to take you on, that the documentary will take you on in that conversation. And I just think it's probably, they should add that if they're going to re-release the documentary, they should add that interview as a special feature to the Blu-ray or whatever, because there's a lot more in it that we didn't see in the documentary that he discusses in that interview.
One other thing I'd like to follow up on with, if I ever had a chance to talk to Mark Kerr, would be to ask him about the situation with dealing with the Japanese promotion. Because, in the scene in the movie, he's asking for like a raise, and they basically say, just fight. You have no contract, just fight. And it kind of, and then it insinuates, I think his first fight was like $3,000 or something like that, which seems extremely low for the time, but or for Pride specifically at that time. Everybody I've ever talked to that fought in Japan, and it's not a long list, but the 3 or 4 people I've had the luck to talk to who and dealt with it back in the day, back then, all had nothing but really good things to say about how easy it was to deal with negotiations and how
watch the Rogan interview. He actually answers your question in that.
Okay, good.
It's actually the first question that Rogan asks him. So
I mean, because it's something that I always. The one thing I always was told was that they were really easy to deal with. So I mean, you might as well spill the beans. Did he basically defend it, or did he say it wasn't as easy as?
No, it was. They were pretty much like, "What do you need?" And he would tell them, and they were like, "Done." That was it.
That's what and I never knew. I always was told that you were treated like a king, and you never worried about your money. It was in an envelope handed to you. And on time.
One of the things he says in the interview, and I'm summarizing again, you could just go to the Rogan episode.
Yeah, I will for sure.
But he says like there was a point where he was like, if you want me to focus 100% on fighting, then I need a monthly stipend to take care of my bills and my housing and stuff like that. And Sakakibara and the guys that were running the show were like, "Is it okay? Is that it? Done." Yeah. So he was able to focus on fighting full time, and he mentioned like covering my medical bills and stuff. And they're like, "Yeah, sure. How much do you need?" And that's why
I wondered if that was a little of the TKO Rock influence right there on the, you know what I mean? Kind of trying to make it seem like, oh yeah, it's shady, it's hard to deal with.
He definitely kind of gave the current UFC model some shade, because he brings up the time that they brought him to an event in Atlantic City to kind of like steal him away from Pride, when he was doing well. And he mentions what they offered, and he was just kind of like, he didn't say it to them, but he was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? I'm making $300,000."
Yeah,
right
yeah. That's
it's definitely, yeah. It's a good interview.
Okay, cool. I'll have to look that up. So, but overall, I enjoyed the movie, and I'd recommend it. But I with this caveat of I definitely would do your best to follow up. I had trouble finding the original documentary. I know I have it on. I probably have it on VHS and DVD. But as far as like finding it
right over there on DVD,
it's surprisingly hard to find online. So I thought that was odd. I thought, how is that not? Or do people? It's weird how that was. I would have thought with the movie coming out that would have been
something
easily accessible.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe with all the deals happening between Paramount, Paramount just picked up the Warner Brothers, that whole thing. Maybe they'll, because the Smashing Machine is on HBO right now. Maybe they'll, it is an HBO film, the original documentary. So maybe they'll find a way to get it out there again.
It's true.
Hey yo,
that's true.
What's up, Antoine?
What's up? So again, that's Friday. Friday is RIZIN 52, which Friday event, 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific. 12 MMA fights currently listed. RIZIN.TV, great deal.
Probably the best deal for fight fans.
Listen, it's $16.99 to just order the event usually, but the entire month is $19.99. So I every time just do the month. Then you got time to rewatch it.
I think they have a year plan too on there. That's not bad.
They do, but if you're picking and choosing months to watch certain events and stuff like that, the month is always I think is the better move than just the single play. Now I think you still get 2 weeks with the single play to watch. But
before we jump into, I don't want to because apparently you and Antoine know something about the NBA. Hey Matt, you saw that Adam Silver said NBA will be coming to Vegas within the
next 2 years.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. I mean, I guess the maybe Vegas and in Seattle, I'm okay with it. I don't know if the league's gonna do well if with the draft, the draft for the new teams, taking players from teams. It's not deep enough as it is, I feel. So I'm not sure what that's gonna do. As far as sports teams in Vegas, I'm a little bit up in the air. I won't mind an expansion team. I'm a Laker fan, so I'm not going to necessarily root hard for another team. But I hated the Raiders and I hated the A's, so I kind of don't have any real love for those teams in Vegas right now either. But no, it's cool. Adds more stuff to do. Another arena. They'll probably play at T-Mobile, I would assume. But who knows? But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. The NBA, I'm enjoying it right now. I know a lot of people aren't, but it's one of the ball leagues that I enjoy.
All right.
Now let's get back to fisticuffs, Ed. Ed Carbajal talk here. UFC 326. Your favorite title is on the line. The BMF title. Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira. We're gonna go down some of the fights. Co-main event: Kyle Bahalo and Renier de Ritter. So obviously, there's names we enjoy on this card, but
I'm just looking at the.
I hope this is an outlier though, because I'm not really overly impressed with okay, it's not costing us pay-per-view money. I get it. We had 2 of them quick back-to-back last month, but to me, I don't know. The BMF thing is just stupid to me. It always has been. With that said, there are some good fights on here. I know Cody Garbrandt was on the prelims.
Yeah.
Which is you don't see his name listed very often these days.
Yeah.
But I know the main card, it's got definitely some bangers and some potential.
For sure.
I see RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez, Bruno Fajea. 2 guys are both kind of stiff, a little bit, kind of robotic. I mean, it's in his name. And when I say stiff, they're bigger dudes, but they're not necessarily, Ginke Sudo moving around the cage. It's a little bit more, stammering towards each other. But I'm going to go with Gregory Rodriguez in the fight. I think he carries a bigger punch. Bruno Fajea picks up some wins, but to me, a lot of it's just I'm not overly excited about him. Rodriguez does put on some he does have a good punch and he can get violent. So yeah. I'll go with Gregory Rodriguez to win. I don't even know if he's the better fighter, but I just think he's a little more violent. I think he can figure out a way to do some damage and win the fight.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that assessment just because of the height and reach advantage seems to favor RoboCop too. So I'm with you on that one. Here's a nice I want to say like Fox era matchup.
Yeah.
Dober versus Michael Johnson.
2 guys. Well, Michael Johnson, it's almost shocking he's still in the UFC and he's on a win streak. You know what I mean? But I'm a fan of Michael Johnson. I've met him, and he was one of the one of the cooler fellas that I ever that I had a chance to talk to over the years, and so I'm a fan of his. Nothing against Drew Dober. Exciting, fun fighter to watch too. As far as picking the fight goes, to me, it's kind of a coin flip. I'm not even sure if they're posting odds anymore on that stuff, but
No.
I'm gonna take Michael Johnson. I'm gonna roll with his run right now, and he seems to be we talk about guys being he seems to be fluid in the cage right now. He seems to be having fun again. He seems to be putting together some stuff, and we've said it before. I mean, he could be world champion one night, and he could be the curtain jerker the next day. So he's kind of right in the middle now. He's back to a pay-per-view main card, which has been a little bit of a grind. I would guess getting back to. I say that I don't recall him being on a main card anytime recently. I'm going to pick him to win. I think he wins by decision. I don't know if he can. I think Dober's probably too durable to get finished unless it's a big, right hand early on.
Curious, like you mentioned the thing about UFC.com. We usually always use the website when we do these previews, and they were listing odds when they were with ESPN, and they had the DraftKings deal, but the DraftKings deal is over, and the odds lines have always been blank because they're doing the poly market thing, the prediction markets. I don't know if you guys are even into that, the people that listen to this podcast, or I did a poll on Twitter to find out if fight fans were really into it. It doesn't seem like anybody really does predict. Everyone still does straight up gambling sports books, but anyway, I'm belaboring the point. As far as the matchup is concerned, I mean, I don't know, man. For me, it's kind of tough. I didn't look at odds, but because of what you brought up the point about Michael Johnson, what we said in the past about him, it's hard not to. I have to lean to. I like Drew Dober, but I'm leaning Michael Johnson just because he's the more wiry, lankier guy, and you know how I am about the ectomorph build. Anyone closer to that is always going to do well in MMA. But these guys bring a lot of experience, man. It's going to be a fun fight.
Yeah, Michael Johnson opened the main card in his last 318 Holloway Poirier 3 fight. So just want to correct myself on that. But prior to that, it definitely had been a few year run. Rob Font, Raul Rosas Jr. Oh gosh. A year ago, I would have said Rob Font. Today, I'm saying Rojas Jr. Wins by decision. I don't know if he's good enough to get a finish, but I think he'll wrestle him down, and I think I'll pick him to win. And I think Rob Font's on the downside. I think he had his peak a year and a half ago or so, 2 years ago, and I think now we're gonna. I think might be proven wrong, but I'm gonna take Rosas to win this fight.
Yeah, Raul Rosas Jr. It's hard not to pick him. He's a younger guy. He's probably going to get a submission, victory in this one. I could see him winning like maybe second round submission. Raul Rosas Jr. And then we move on to the asterisk Kyle Barallo versus asterisk Rainier DeRitter. This is DeRitter's first fight after. Let's be real. When he quit against, in the last fight, he's coming off a loss here. Both of them are. I don't know, man. I'm still gonna put some faith in DeRitter, but so I'll pick him just because I feel like he wants to get that behind him. The loss.
Well, here, let me see if I can help you out of here a little bit. He's fighting the guy who's 17-2, also coming off a loss. The thing about DeRitter, and I just saw his interview the other day, is he acknowledged that he was terrible in the last fight. He acknowledged he has been terrible in fights before, which I thought was kind of nice to see because it when you look at a guy who's 21-3, and he's willing to admit that there's just certain nights he's not capable basically of winning. It tells me it's more of a mental kind of day of fight thing as opposed to skill level, because when he's on, he could essentially be the world champion at this weight class. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he doesn't have 2 in a row of those mental breakdown fights where he's just not there and he no-shows the fight. We've seen it with other fighters in the past. There's been Vitor Belfort is an example of a guy who back in the day would show up to some fights and look like the greatest fighter in the world, and then other fights you'd go, dude, he literally quits in the middle of the fight. Yeah, and a lot of it was mental and a lot of it was outside the cage, some of the stuff with his sister and stuff for a time being. But it definitely reminds me of that kind of thing. But mentally, if he's prepared and he, that's basically what I'm saying is I don't think he's a bad fighter. So I think that what we see, like the last fight, I think was an outlier. And I'm going to say that maybe that happens every 5 or 6 fights, but I'm not going to say it's going to happen back-to-back fights. So I will take De Ridder to win this fight. Do we get a 5-rounder? Yes. No, 3-rounder. Would have liked to see a 5-rounder, honestly. Both these guys could probably use the extra time, in a 5-round fight, or the experience with that, considering that one of the two is probably going to get a title shot here in the very near future. Or at least a headlining thing again. So I'll take De Ridder to win. In a 5-round fight, I would have leaned towards a submission or like Barral submitting him seems a little extreme, but I will take De Ridder to win. Point of victory is hard for me to say. He could really beat him up and get a TKO, sloppy submission, or I could see him or just running right in the clock.
Yeah,
win a decision.
Yeah, So I guess we're on the same page with De Ridder. Main event: Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. Fun fight, man. I have trouble not picking Holloway in anything BMF related. So, he's hard to take down. He definitely had. I know he trains a lot of decent MMA submission defense. He's got the reach advantage and everything, their history and what have you. I could see Holloway pulling off a decision here.
I know what I'm going to get out of Max Holloway. I don't know. I'm not sure about Charles Oliveira right now. But with that said, I also could look at his record and go, okay, he lost a split decision Sarukian, who he had flailing for his life in a choke. Beat Michael Chandler, and then he lost to Topuria in an embarrassing fashion, quick and brutal. And then he rebounded with a win over Gamrot. So I'm wondering, was he washed, or did he just lose to Islam, Sarukian, and a squeaker? Is he just not as good as Islam and Topuria, and essentially on the level of Sarukian these days, which would mean he's basically a top 3 or 4 guys in the division. See me being at the Topuria fight and betting on him and then watching him crumble in like a minute and a half. Like that definitely weighs on the mind a little bit. But I gotta tell you, man, if they're both on their game, I think Oliveira wins. I think his ground game, if he's again, I say ground game, but and most of the time he knocks people down to the ground. So maybe he doesn't knock Oliveira down, but in a world where he kind of puts pressure on a guy and tries to get him down to the ground and he gets him down, I think Oliveira wins the fight. So I guess that's where I'm at. I'm going to pick Oliveira to win, but it's simply going to come down to, is he even capable of getting a takedown? If it's a slugfest, I think Holloway's got to win. And if he goes into this BMF thing, a guy who's essentially the all-time submission guy in UFC history, if he comes into this thinking he's going to go rock'em sock'em robots, then then honestly, I kind of hope he gets embarrassed again, because that's just stupid. Like dude, like you can be the BMF thing.
Oliveira has this thing, and I don't think Holloway falls for it. And you've seen it. You'll see it in a lot of fights where when a striking exchange comes, if he knows he can't take the guy down, he'll play possum and act like he got knocked down so that the guy jumps on top of him so he can play his guard. He's
Correct.
done it before. He's very, he will use, even though, us from outside watching, we expect that. But when you get somebody with the blood flowing and all that stuff happening with the adrenaline in the fight, sometimes they'll forget their training and make the mistake too. So I could see him trying to pull that with Holloway. I feel like Holloway's crafty enough to avoid that. He's been careful against guys before. When it comes to striking, maybe towards the end of fights with the whole pointing down thing, that comes towards the end of a fight. So even when he does take a risk, he does it smart. So I don't know. I'm interested. I don't mind it. It should be a fun fight. But yeah, I could see if he does make the mistake, I could see Oliveira pulling it off too.
Now what's the difference between pointing down to the ground and falling back and saying jump into my guard? It's essentially the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. Except one's a grappler. Like, to me, like, if I'm Oliveira, I might do that. I might, right when the bell rings, and I might point to the ground, like, and fall down to the ground and go, let's go down. You want to point at the mat? Come down to my world then. Like, you want everybody to step into your world and throw.
Though. People start
maybe, or people would go nuts if he dove into his guard and started beating the hell out of him too. I'm just saying it would be stupid. It would be stupid for Holloway to do that because the fight starts on the feet. We know that we know how it goes. But I'm just saying, like, I'd like to see. There's so many fights in the history of the fight game that I would have liked to see spend 2 minutes on the ground just to see what would have happened.
Yeah.
And I guess that's part of the fight game is that you got to get it there or it won't happen. I understand all of it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the whole BMF thing. Stated it, so that throws me off. I just wish this was a co-main event to another fight, and then the card would look stacked. To me, like, it's kind of like I hope it just doesn't influence how we're fighting. I mean, the UFC's already said we're basically cutting boring fighters, so I guess probably pulling guard a second into a fight would probably not get too much of that TKO money, but I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, that fight is on Saturday. RIZIN Friday, UFC Saturday. Earlier start time for UFC again, 9 Eastern for the main card. That hopefully they got the pacing down right. The first show was kind of a bust. Second show seemed much better. I'll be interested to see when we get a show with a bunch of finishes how they do it. If they really hold it up or if
the filler I it's hard. Again, it's hard to complain because it's not a pay-per-view, and so like I find it hard to complain because I'm I
understand.
I can jump online and dick around on Twitter and make comments about what we just saw until things get going again.
It's true,
but I'm enjoying them. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, part of it, I'm saying this partly because I really hated ESPN, but I'm enjoying my Paramount Plus experience. I like even when I'm too tired to watch the fights. If I go to bed and I wake up the next day, the fights are separated and queued up for me to just
click on the ones you want to watch.
Yeah. It's really really nice experience.
You're right. All right. So enjoy the fights this weekend. Fans can follow the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. You could again follow at MMA Hawk 21.
Yeah.
As I was able to return to the Xverse, to the Twitterverse, whatever.
The world is healing. Yeah.
You know how I did it? I went to Grok and I asked him why every time I tell him my account's hacked. I made Grok give me so many answers that they eventually gave me a direct line to somebody that I just had to fill something out, and they gave me basically my account back the next day.
There you go. That's
like AI. So question Grok. Grok sent me some links that were broken, and I just kept going and going and going. Why are you sending me a bad link? I want a link to somebody who's gonna fix my account. And after about 5 tries, 5 minutes, it boom came through. So
nice.
So I'm back. MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter. MMA Hawk 21 on Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, Old Head Carb on Twitch, and purchase his books by Edward Carbajal on Amazon. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good night. Enjoy the fights this week, and we will see you soon.
Peace.